Are you sitting comfortably? Do you have a beverage? Do you have a cheese snack? Shall we begin? Hey everybody. It is that time of the week again. It's time for the weekend live stream. So let's get started. First of all, happy Easter everyone, and just a reminder that the Immortal Emperor protects. Hey there! Jan Shivik, Scarab, Don, Nicholas, Egoat, Josh, Danger. I am Conrad, thank you very much. Hey Seamus, Jimmy, Ellen, Matt, Beyonder, Jason. So today, the cheese of the morning, as everyone arrives. Hey Adam. Is some good old Mainland. I mentioned Mainland being New Zealand's main sort of cheese producer. Good things take time. Mainland cheese. This is aged cheddar, tasty cheese. It's been aged for 18 months, and this is your general store-bought supermarket tasty cheddar cheese that everybody buys in New Zealand. Big block of cheese. I like it because it's a bit sharper than like Edam or your standard sort of mild cheese. And it's a good grilling cheese for a cheese on toast, or a grilled cheese sandwich as you call them. Here comes the cheese. Yep. That's quite a big chunk of cheese for a tasty cheddar. Hey, X-Poison, Ethan, Gazanova, TZGM to 2010, Trogdor, the Burninator, Jeremy, Nicholas, nice to see you. Swiss cheese, yeah, I've got to get some decent Swiss cheese. So yeah, this has got a fresh yet tangy taste. It's a good cheddar cheese. Have I played the module Egg of the Phoenix? No, I have not. I've seen it though. Smells like feet. A little bit, not as much as Camembert smells a little bit like feet. Camembert and Brie. Hey Mew3. Happy Easter everybody. Welcome Mason. Red dragon cheese, yeah. Absolutely, Don. If I can ever find some. I need to, like, somebody link me a send me an email with links to international cheese supply places that I can get them sent to me in New Zealand. Swiss on a tuna melt, yeah. Absolutely. In fact, that is a good idea. I might have that for lunch. Raxophion, hello Barcelona. Happy Easter to everyone. Mookie, it's could I call it a dry cheese? So it's a flaky, dry cheddar, almost on the verge of crystal, with a nice, lingering, mild sharpness to it. Hey Kairos, Petalan, Faith, Dragon Turtle. Wow, everybody's turning up. Nice. So the subjects of today, I've put out 4 monster ecology videos this week, which I think actually is a record. Granted, a couple of them were just like 10-minute videos or 12-minute videos, which is short by my standards. One of them was a homebrew. So we're going to be talking about the Lurfen, we're going to be talking about fey creatures, we're going to be talking about elves, and we're going to be talking about Lachey today. I have had chocolate eggs this morning. Well, actually marshmallow eggs this morning, and I've got a big load of chocolate sitting in the fridge, actually, waiting for me after this. We do celebrate the commercial version of Easter in New Zealand. They're here. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, a lot of videos by me. So yeah, I just happened to have a real creative sort of week this week and put out a lot of videos, just in a generally good mood. Happy 420. Yeah. Now that you mention that, Trogdor, I did happen to put out that Fey plant creature at 4:20 in the morning in America on the 4th of the 20th. So I'm surprised nobody picked that up in the comments. Yeah, it's the next day. It's tomorrow here, Trogdor. I live in the future. By the way, this is the one of the deeply nerdy T-shirts that you can get from the Teespring store if you are that way inclined. And a reminder that this is a monetized channel, so you can make super chats if you have questions which get inevitably lost in the storm of comments that come in later on. The Illithir did do something wrong, Dragon Turtle. They did make alliances. They were the ones that made alliances with the dragons in the first place. So I've had a patron request, a direct patron request to do a video on the Lachey. So I'm going to get started on that and put it out pretty quickly. Yeah, a 420 drop on 420, exactly. So I'm going to be doing a video also. You can see me doing the research here on the Kraken. There's a really good monster ecology article from Dragon number 334, printed in August 2005, of which I'm reading through the pages here. The Kraken is one of the big bad guys, and yeah, they're also super intelligent. They've got an IQ of 22, an intelligence of 22. So they are actually genius level bosses that rule over the seas. So it's kind of interesting because they've got far reaching implications. If a dragon became a patron, would it be a day patron? I don't know what you mean, Isaac. Do I have a breath weapon for this red dragon? No, it hasn't breathed on me yet. Probably because I keep giving it money. I put coins on it every now and then. I'm a little bit superstitious that way. Release the Kraken, yeah. So the Lachey, the Fey creator race. Hey Jimmy, thank you. You said monetized? I wonder who and how. Just like that. Yep, just like that. That gets my attention 100%. Hey Bear, nice to see you again. Are you going to do more homebrew videos? Yeah, I do. I release them every now and then when inspiration strikes. The Lurfen really just... I started just thinking... I found one picture, that picture of that plant that I used, and the cogs just started going, and I wrote that script and created that monster in a matter of about 3 or 4 hours. So it was obviously percolating in the back of my mind. And I like, much like the delicious pink ooze, I like creatures which are not overly threatening. They're like background flora and fauna of the Dungeons and Dragons world, but the applications that you can use that monster for are much wider than just an encounter. So the Lurfen obviously has campaign altering potential, particularly if you combine it with the Awaken spell. So if you've got a bunch of Lurfen in a nursery, a swamped nursery, and some elves find themselves threatened by an invading orc horde, they may propagate a whole bunch of Lurfen elven soldiers and then cast the Awaken spell on them and essentially give themselves a plant army. It's totally expendable. They only have a lifespan. I mean, they're basically just seed pods. So although they're sentient, they have a purpose and they have like a 2-month lifespan. So you got the potential for all sorts of shenanigans, not just pack animals and monsters and green dragons causing the forest to come alive and eat you. So yeah. An aqua dragon. Well, yes, there are aquatic dragons, yep. What would happen if a Lurfen ate a delicious pink ooze? That's a good question. I don't know. I guess you'd just make a sort of a mushroomy mass. Yeah. Because basically anything with DNA is fair game. Yeah, Clone Wars, exactly, Dragon Turtle. Hey, Jacob. Environmental hazards, yep, sure. Breon Jackson, you'll see his channel is linked in my liked channels, I think. He does a really good series of books called the Cinematic Environs, and he's almost completed them. He's got a couple more to go, and then I think he's going to be doing like a Kickstarter for an anthology of those, which I'm going to be right behind. Also, there's another really exciting Kickstarter coming up. You'll hear more about that from me directly later on, when it gets closer to the release date. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you could basically have an awakened orc, much like the Warhammer 40k sort of fungus algae combinations. The clones, no, they're just basically a plant, so they retain basic physical attributes. They're less agile. They're a little bit more durable. The main difference is they've got an almost unlimited endurance. So as long as you keep them watered, they just keep going and going and going. They don't need to rest or sleep. But they do burn out within a couple of months. Oh, then yeah, you've got something to look forward to, Janchevik. Yeah, so the Kraken kind of is the Leviathan in a way. Krakens in traditional folklore and popular media, pretty much everything aside from D&D is a large octopus creature. This is a Leviathan, but that's okay. It's fine that D&D has a different take on things. So this would be a Leviathan, technically. It's kind of like a Kraken and a Leviathan had a love child of some kind. That's what the Kraken of the 5th edition is, for sure. But Kraken's traditionally a big octopus. I mean, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, had 2 encounters with a Kraken, I believe. Yeah. More videos on world building? Yep, sure. So I'd like to do more information on like what the Feywild is. A lot of people think of it as a plane of existence like a planet. It's not really. It's more sort of misty and murky and mystical. It's really a plane of story and mythos and fairy tales. So it doesn't really have defined borders per se. It touches on a lot of different places. It's almost like a transitive plane in a way. It's more astral than it is lower planes, if you see what I mean. That's why you have fey creatures which are welcome in celestial courts, because in some places it kind of overlaps a little bit with faith and fairy tale. How big would one get? Well, I said that the size limit on a Lurfet is large, but with dragon energy, who knows? Particularly a green dragon, I'll leave that up to you. You can certainly make exceptions. I mean, it's a brand new monster. Really, the definitions of it is up to you. I leave it wide open. As the creator of the Lurfet and the Lurfen, I give you free license to change and alter it as you see fit. You haven't played since Dungeons & Dragons Advanced? Yeah. Things have changed a fair bit. In fact, these may look familiar to you. I just recently acquired some of the old classic books. Boy, these bring back so many memories, all the pictures and things in here. I love this stuff. And one thing I never had access to, which I just recently got, was the Advanced Dragons Advanced Player's Handbook. So basically the last edition of the Player's Handbook for AD&D that they put out, which has got all the combined stuff. This is like the rules encyclopedia for Player's Handbooks of Advanced D&D. With a lot of the stuff that was from Unearthed Arcana, which is included in there. No, the Lachey haven't even been mentioned in 5th edition as far as I know, Don. All hell, yupped up. Hey, Carlos. So, oh yeah, Feyre. I did mention the Faerie with the Gold Elves when I was talking about the origin of the Netheril Empire, and I need to continue on with the Netheril Empire video series. A giant Roadrunner mount. Basically, you use the dinosaur locomotion. Yeah, Feywild in 5th edition is pretty fuzzy, it's true. So the Lachey are the Fey creator race, and they didn't get any mention in 5th edition Fey origin story whatsoever. And this is where I talk about, hey Jordan, how's it going? I hope you realise, Jordan, I'm going to capitalise on you cutting back on your videos to try and catch up on subscribers, hopefully. But I'm looking forward to the content that you're putting out. So the Lachey didn't really get a mention by Jeremy Crawford in his whole Fey origin stories in Modern Canaan's Tome of Foes. I don't know whether that's like an executive decision or whether it just doesn't fit with the agenda, or Lachey are just sort of too outside of the they're too complicated. I don't know. They muddy the waters a little bit. But I'm going to bring you a video on the Lachey and tell you exactly who they are and what they're up to. Do it! Yes, Reagan, I want to do a lot more Magic the Gathering monsters as well. Plus, don't forget, even when I finish the monster manual, I've got less than 20 creature videos to go now. I've still got all of these books to cover in monsters to bring you from the Tome of Horrors, the Creature Codex, the Tome of Beasts. I just have an unlimited amount of content. So not only all of the requests from everybody else, if I just show you the list looks like. So here's me writing down everybody's requests for different videos. Here's me checking off things, and they're spilling over into the other page as well. And here's me checking off all of the monster videos left to do in the monster manual. So yeah, Kraken, Magman, Mero, Nightmare, Ogres. Although Ogres got a mention in the Hill Giant video, they haven't had a video of their own. Pegasus, Piercer, Pixie, Quaggoth, Sahuagin, Revenant, Salamander, Satyr, Scarecrow, Spectre, Sphinx, Water Weird, Wraith, and the Yeti. Plus, I've got to go back and redo a lot of the early monster videos where the sound quality and stuff was terrible. So quite a few of the dragon and giant videos need to be reworked. My very first video was on the Roper, so I need to redo that one as well. Hey Reagan, thank you. Yeah, man. If you guys aren't watching Jordan's Forgotten Realms Explained videos, then yeah, you're missing out. Jordan and me and Mr. Rex do similar sort of content in a way. We definitely need more pixie videos. Video on elves, yes. So player races, I do get around to doing player races. If you've been with my channel for a while, you'll know that I'm very slow in getting those ones out, and I've been working my way towards like the big four races of humans, elves, dwarves, halflings. Yeah, there's a lot of love between the different me and Jordan. We're definitely friend channels. If you ever want to collab on anything, Jordan, just let me know. Did you miss the cheese section? Yeah, you did. I'm afraid so. Look, it was a bit of tasty cheddar cheese. Mr. Rex did a video on autistic dragons recently. What? He has been doing those short videos on dragons, like this Dragon Secrets. What will you do for a dragon bear? Ooh. So essentially, it'd be like an owlbear with an owlbear with breath weapon and scales. Perhaps some sort of local lair effect might be quite interesting. Owlbears were traditionally kind of like hunters of around Fey portals. So owlbears and displacer beasts sort of overlap territories a little bit. Yeah, whatever. Well, something will pop up, I'm sure, Jordan. I know you're a busy man. Or Solution, if he wants to collaborate on anything as well. Eat the dragons, do it! What does dragon taste like? Spicy. Swap channels. Interesting. These comments. You need an idea to capture the PCs. Problem is that they have level 14 and 16, and one has teleport. Should I just go into it with anti-magic shells and counter spells? Yeah. Hit him with a couple of beholders. Mind-controlled beholders and like a mind flayer. That'll do it. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Wrath. Always happy to hear that I've got people back into D&D, back into the fold. Mind you, society is kind of pulling everybody back into D&D these days, so I can't take all the credit. I know, right, Mason? Why did they decide Kamadans and Displacer Beasts aren't related in 2nd edition and 4th edition? Who knows? Well, 4th edition was kind of weird in many ways. I wish actually Mike Mills took a lot of his ideas from 4th edition and put them into 5th edition, because Mike Mills's creative outlets, like he had some really good monster ideas and things, but 4th edition they've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater. Like we lost minions, for instance. Minions were really good. What about a Lurfen infused with elemental fire that creates Lurfettes that can only germinate their seeds by creating forest fires? That's a good idea. Yeah, some sort of elemental Lurfen. Boy, yeah, you should definitely go with that one. I'm quite open to somebody making a PDF of different Lurfen varieties and putting it up on the DM's Guild. Feel free. I hereby release it into the wild. You're free to make any sort of Lurfen or Lurfette creatures that you want. Yeah, a magic area that redirects and teleports, like a funnel trap. So they teleport and it redirects the teleport into a trap, an anti-magic trap. That could work. What homebrew settings have I made? A few. I've had a D&D sort of world that didn't have a name. I've got Sithrune that I had worked on and ran a campaign, a mini campaign in fact, yeah, that just recently ended. Yeah, a few. Hey, thank you, Robert. If I wanted to give a powerful Archmage lair actions, what should they be? So things like invisible stalkers, invisible servants, artificed beings like animated objects, awakened plants, golems, that sort of thing. Familiars, summoned creatures like imps and succubi and things like that. Quasits, magmans, mephits. You could have spells like wards and symbols that go off when they're disturbed or looked at. So you could have the Archmage is basically directing, give them a lair action which, like on an initiative count 20, allows them to order their minions to do something, or activate a minion or get a minion to do something in their lair. And that could, you're wide open to having them activate all sorts of stored spells and magical effects. It should be really dangerous. Not only that, but Archmages probably won't stick around for a combat. They'll activate all sorts of stuff and then they will try and skip out as quickly as possible. One of the interesting things is that you make it time sensitive. So they're going to get away if they can get to that urn, this magical symbol, open that page on that book, and if you sort of telegraph those sort of events, then it gives a temporal aspect, a tempo to the fight, which turns it from kill the Archmage into kill the Archmage if you can, but also stop him escaping, stopping him getting to that thing there to activate that horrible thing to like make, otherwise things are going to get quickly out of control. So you have the players are like stopping and discussing what they're doing at the table to make sure that things don't get out of hand and get on top of them, because they very quickly will. Give them a complicated environment, essentially. This is like the Archmage's lair, so they've got all sorts of stuff, all sorts of contingencies ready to go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you feel free to include minions in your 5th edition games, for sure. A Fey Fireflower Lurfen, yeah. Yeah, knockout, paralysis, petrification, they all work pretty well. I would go with probably an Epic Dragon for that one, Reclaimer. How do Faerie and Drow feel about each other? Or the Faerie case, any non-gold... Or in the Faerie's case, any non-gold elves? Well, the Faerie are fiends, right? So they don't like anybody, because they don't really have a place in the Nine Hells, and they don't really have a place in the natural world. So and also anybody who learns about their existence kind of turns against them. So they're secretive until they don't have to be anymore, in which case they start to domineer and become really horrible. But they are lawful evil, so not necessarily chaotic, unless they're demon bred, in which case they will be chaotic evil. So they're just forces of destruction, really. And the Drow are involved in their own internal politics, and Drow are xenophobic. So they think everybody is beneath them, and they will seek to control and enslave Faerie whenever they find them. Or just get them so involved in their intrigue and politics that the Faerie will become trapped by obligation and threat. That's kind of how the Drow operate. White dragons have no real flavour. They taste like chilled melon. Are there any gods that live in the Feywild? Yeah, I think so. I need to do more research on that. There definitely is the Fey Court, though, and some of them are as powerful as gods. Have I seen the videos from Davey Chappie? Maybe? It doesn't ring a bell. Blue Mountain Gaming. Hey, welcome back into cell phone range. Oh yeah, Deep Spawn. I wanted to mention Deep Spawn during the Lurfen video because obviously people who are familiar with AD&D and 3.5 will be familiar with the Deep Spawn. Also, there's a novel series where the dwarves got into quite a conflict, and Deep Spawn were involved. So that's part of Forgotten Realms lore. Absolutely, Jordan. I'm looking forward to it. Enjoy the movie. Wonder what he's going to watch. Hellboy, maybe? Dark Strider, no, I haven't done any videos specifically on any Fey Lords, as far as I know. Made so many. The Blink Mammoth. Yeah, Mason, that's on my list of things to do. Hey, your Pocket DM. How's it going, Jada? Don't forget about the Archmage having spells like Magic Circle and Glyph in the lair, and he can gain spell effects without concentration. Yeah, absolutely. Donkey Punch the Archmage. Medusa head in a chest. Yeah, that'd work. What about a Lurfen infected by myconid spores so it raises the dead in the surrounding area instead of cloning? Ooh, I like that idea too. Yeah, it's wide open to different ideas. A pixie variant of Lurfen, except treating them such as neutral alignment and no strong pull to major powers such as nature, divine, etc. Yeah, the Lurfen are just plants. They don't have any agenda other than a basic spread the seeds. That's all they're interested in doing. I would like the idea of if you somehow made a Lurfet player character, for instance, they would be obsessed with finding the perfect place to put their seeds, because that would be the end of their life. And like you could have that, hey Greenscythe, you could have that tragic moment where the character finally dies in the adventure, and they crawl to a spot, and the DM says, and your seeds are laid down and germinate, and Lurfens start to grow. That would be cool. No, I haven't done a video specifically on dragon slaying. Also, I should do a video on dragon magic items because dragons make their own magic items, and that's been a big part of the game in the past. Yeah, a coven of hags committing science on some Lurfen. Yeah, exactly. Ooh, that's a great idea, Mason. A shambling mound covered in Lurfen kept alive by it. Nice. An awakened Lurfen has an agenda. Yeah, it's whatever agenda it takes on with its newfound intelligence, I suppose. Yeah, true to Dragon Turtle. The Drow and the Feyre do have similar agendas. But just because they've got similar brands of evil doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get along together. Opposites attract, well, opposites also detract. Oh, so, yeah, familiarity breeds contempt. And both of those species are full of contempt. A Lurfen Storm Giant. Whew. Well, that would be a huge Lurfen. A Lurfet. Ars Magica game that features a Fey Grove. An angry Fey prince has been locked out of the valley by goblins. Ooh, nice. Exactly, Dragon Turtle. Like I mentioned, if you cast Awaken on them, they become essentially sentient beings. Is the true names of devils and demons the names during their mortal life? No, no. No, when a mortal turns into, gets put into the demon system, you could say, they essentially have most of their individuality stripped away from them, and they become a new being, and that has an infernal name. The devils will have a name that they use in the Nine Hells, but they'll also have like an original celestial name as well in some cases. And in the case of those individuals who have been sent to the Nine Hells, they may retain their original names. So it depends on what the original origin of that celestial or that fiend or that demon was. So if they were mortals, but not all demons were mortals, they were from a different universe. Some of them have been recreated from mortal stock, but they generally get it all stripped away from them. It's a very rare case, such as Orcus, for instance, who started out as a mortal and eventually became a demon lord. So he's the exception from the norm, not the norm. Butterflies with human faces that sting the players. No damage, just flowers that sprout from the source. Damage only happens when they pull the flowers out. Your group now hates butterflies. That's excellent. 25th VO. Does a wyvern have the ability to talk? Not unless you want them to, but generally no, they don't. As far as I know. Actually, I better look that up. I don't think so. Pretty sure. Languages? None. Nah, they don't. Which is why the dragons in Game of Thrones don't talk, because they're wyverns, they're not dragons. You can tell because they don't have front legs. This is my dragon front leg. I've recently killed my first breed dragon in 5th edition. Imagine my surprise when I learned how terrible dragon scale armor is now. I would go so far as to call it insultingly bad. Yeah, it's not great. It's great in places where you can't get, like Dark Sun, for instance. You can't get any metallic armor. An awakened Lurfet player race. Yeah, maybe. And a cheese plane is a Lurfen technically a cheese factory? Mm-hmm. Half Thunder Giant, half Force Dragon as the big bad guy's lieutenant. Yeah, that works. A Hydra Eton. Have I ever watched Princess Mononoke? And if so, what are the equivalent of those little spirit things in the forest? Oh, that's the what are they called? Just a second. Help me out, people. Chewingas. That's it. Chewingas. You can find them in the Tomb of Annihilation. So chewingas are little nature spirits, essentially little forest fey creatures that live inside rocks and things. Yeah, chewinga. There you go. And they are exactly the same as those little forest spirits that you find in Princess Mononoke. I don't know if they were directly inspired. I think they were Chris Perkins's creation. Do you think? Do I think they'll produce any Dark Sun material? I'm just hoping for actual half giants, not the Goliath variant. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they might put out like a sidebar thing. Half giants. I mean, half giants aren't too hard to come up with. You can basically reskin Goliaths if you want to, but half giants, yeah. What sort of stats does a half giant have? Maybe I should do a video on that at some point. I'll put that down as a request. A spell warped Hydra. Imagine a Hydra goose, and you know what the last boss monster I made is. Nice. A Hydra goose. That's pretty cool. Like a big bird with multiple necks, and yeah. Geese are pretty vicious. Yeah, Wyverns, the shameful coyotes of the proud dragon species. Yeah, that's a pretty good, accurate description. Kodamas, yeah. George R.R. Martin called them dragons and said he made his dragons only have 2 legs because it was more scientifically accurate, because nothing in nature has 4 legs and wings. That's true, but it's not Earth, so I guess he would be one of those guys who argues about the ridiculousness of bikini armor and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff like he's fine with dragons being more anatomically realistic, and yet ice undead. Hello? Whatever, George. A python made of a flower called covered vine with hummingbirds made out of plants that are part of it and helped cross-pollinate itself with other plants. Yeah. Thank you, November Mind. What was that, Regan? Regan? AJ does your intro animations. Oh, who does my intro animations? I buy them from Video Intros, I think it is. It's a website. There's another one that I've used as well. But I should really make my own intro. Also, there's been something very weird going on with my video editor since its last update, which is why the videos keep the aspect ratio is completely off on them. I've tried to fix it, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to change my my video editing software. Luckily, Jada has provided me with a different option. Hey, thank you, Robert. What about lair actions for other top-level magic users like bards, druids, and warlocks? Well, warlocks obviously have an otherworldly patron who would be present in their lair, perhaps, like through a cauldron or a seeing stone or a mystical circle or something like that, or a possessed book or something. So they could actually inhabit some sort of familiar or an avatar of their patron, which would be there. They may be mind-possessed servants and things like that. They could be all sorts of foul curses and things which are in that area. If it's like an old one type thing or a fae thing, it depends on what sort of old one or patron they have. Druids, obviously, they have animals and plants and things which can come alive and help them out. They can also change the atmosphere to fill it full of hallucinogenic pollen and things. They can change the temperature and stuff and cause lightning bolts and stuff like that to happen. Bards, obviously, illusion, trickery, subterfuge, seduction, and bamboozlement, enchantment, that sort of thing. So illusions obviously would play a large part of bardic lairs. And bards tend to congregate, and also druids tend to congregate as well. Warlocks are more sort of loners. You don't get cabals of warlocks per se. But a patron of a warlock may have multiple warlocks working for it that are working in conjunction. So they may come together for mutual defense if they're forewarned of a significant threat to one of their more important members. Bards tend to congregate just to share stories and folklore and information, and become involved in things like the harpers and things like that. Sort of more of a, yeah. So yeah, I hope that inspires some ideas. The mini intros are still a bit funny, yeah. they're not great though. Like, it's funny and temporarily. My intros are shrinking, yeah. I actually tried to change the aspect ratio, and it worked on one video and then didn't work on the next one. So, I don't know what's going on with it. I've tried emailing the company that makes the software, but I've got no response whatsoever from them. They are extremely unhelpful. So, I think I'm just going to have to drop them. So, yeah, if NCH Software is watching this, well done. You've lost me as a... your latest update was completely screwed. Maybe I could roll back the software to a previous version and never update it again. Who knows? Hey Daniel, you've missed a bit. Have I ever played through Age of Worms? No. Kevin, what if gods are dragons, titans are kaiju, demons are wyverns, and the behemoths are dinosaurs? Yeah. What would sorcerer's reactions be? So channeling raw magical power. So think of feng shui, sort of, dark side of the force type of thing. What's your opinion on a young druid learning from both a good aligned druid as well as an evil cleric of nature? That sounds like definitely good fodder for a player character backstory, or an NPC for a game, for sure. One of the interesting things, and a question that my friend Ian and I, who do podcasts occasionally, we're talking about how there's this assumption that clerics will be monotheistic in Dungeons and Dragons when the entire environment is polytheistic. So why do you have clerics of specific gods? Why don't you have a cleric of the pantheon of Faerun? So they don't just worship one god, they're actually a member of a polytheistic faith that includes all these other gods. So elves, for instance, would have Corellon Larathian and Sayanine Moonbow and the various others, Arushni. So why do clerics only worship one god? Why do they only channel power from one god? That's not really the way that gods work in Dungeons and Dragons. It's a polytheistic environment. So how would you handle a god that's a member of more than one faith? Well, basically, they would be devoted to specific aspects of those gods, so their portfolios. So you can have a polytheistic cleric who concentrates on certain avenues of power, much like wizard schools. So a wizard would concentrate on abjuration or illusion or something like that, much like a cleric would start to focus on one particular aspect of faith in general. But they would actually venerate all of the gods in their pantheon. You have an idea of a mythology only in reptiles but not humans, such as dragons and dinosaurs. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get you. So what sort of gods did the creator races worship? Like the The Saruk, for instance, they're a reptile creator race. Did they have reptile gods? What about the gods back then? Did they have reptile forms? Yeah, all Western dragons should have at least 4 legs and 2 wings, 1 tail and a head. But bikini armor is stupid. Nice, Egg Silver. No one likes to talk about the mistress's class. You choose a domain as a cleric, not a god. Exactly, Padawan. So it's kind of built that way in the first place. A myth only consists of an avian and reptilian creatures such as dragons, dinosaurs, and godzillas. Yeah. A player that feels shouldn't be punished for messing with your hand and eye because he meant to use them for good. I feel he needs punishment. Thoughts? Shouldn't be punished for messing with your hand and eye because... Oh, you're talking about the hand and eye of Vecna? Yeah. I mean, they're not inherently... It's not evil to use a hand or eye of Vecna. Godzilla would be a Tarrasque. Great point on the polytheistic thing. Yeah, food for thought. It'd be like Romans liking all Roman and Gaulish gods as just other names and variations of their own. Yeah, exactly. So in our Earth history, when an invading power, an invading culture took over the territory of a pre-existing culture, so for instance, when the Europeans from the mainland invaded the British Isles, the British Isles were occupied by another group of people, another race of people, and they had their own mythology, which was Baelor of the One Eye and various others. And that got taken over, and the Baelor became the bad guys, the pre-existing pantheon of the new pantheon of gods. Same thing with the Greeks. The Titans were the gods of another group of people who lived in Greece before Greece was invaded by another group, and their pantheon was taken over and became the fathers or the progenitors of the new pantheon, so Zeus and all those guys. So yeah, Kronos originally was worshipped by someone as a god, as their god, without Zeus and all those others. But I have magic powers. Why would I need armor? Yeah, a lot of the time in the comments that I get from people, they are completely ignoring the fact that armor is, I don't know if they've ever worn armor, it's really hot. It's really hot. So wearing armor, like I couldn't even imagine wearing armor all day in a highly athletic environment of crawling around in a dungeon and stuff. It would be really hard. The armor that your average adventurer wears is not the sort of armor that you would wear in a straight up battle with somebody. It needs to be a lot more, like for instance, you need to be able to scale a wall or climb down a rope and things like that. It's pretty tricky stuff to do, and it's really hot. Like by the time you end up scaling a 20-foot wall, you're gonna have to stop for 10 minutes up the top and just like loosen a few straps there because you would be overheated. So part of the advantage of having armor which is light but heavily enchanted is you've got the same level of protection, but against serious threats which are going to kill you. You might still get some nicks and scratches and things, but you've got that huge advantage of being able to just breathe and having agility and things like that. So that's something which I don't see a lot of people addressing. Yeah, Damien. I also get a lot of comments from people. Like one of the are the D&D creatures based on the Bible? Some of them are. They take Dungeons and Dragons creatures from all over the place. So we've got Leviathan from the Bible and Behemoth and things like that. I was actually in the process of watching Hellboy. I was watching it last night and I got so tired that I stopped. Ooh. I mean, I walked out of the movie. So, what was I talking about? Yeah, bikini armor. Yeah, I mean, not all characters are going to wear bikini armor, obviously. I'm just saying that in a magic-rich environment, it's a choice. It's a choice to wear it. Is there a primary leader of the Feywild? Yes, there is. So there's Tatiana and Oberon are the leaders of the Fey court, per se. But don't forget, it's a folklore. It's a place based on folklore. So in some ways, it's kind of altered by the beliefs of the prime material plane, almost like a celestial realm. Hey, Fiona. Chill metal as air conditioning. Sure. Yeah, I mean, when I see somebody, that's a good point. When I see somebody role playing where the amount of time it takes to put on armor, the fact that it's really hard to put on armor without somebody helping you, particularly plate mail, it's almost impossible to put it on without somebody helping you out. The fact that you can't sleep in armor, the fact that you can't swim in armor, and things like that. When I see people role playing armor properly, then I'm okay with it. Then yeah. But otherwise, I have some pretty valid points. If you want to get really specific and realistic about armor, then be realistic and specific in your armor in your games, and don't trump on anybody who, who starts taking a fantasy aspect of it. Hey, Jimmy. Godzilla is the Tarrasque, no exceptions. Just give the Tarrasque a breath weapon with necrotic, radiant, fire, sonic, and force damage from the blast. Destruction beam. Yeah, a beam of annihilation. Is Hellboy worth seeing? Yeah, I'll watch any sort of fantasy type movie. Just sort of segment the part of your mind that has the Guillermo del Toro Hellboys and Ron Perlman. Put that in a box, lock it until the Hellboy is finished, and just judge it on its own merits. Fomorian's Mero and Banshee are from Ireland. Yep. Yeah, again, Kevin, it's just a story. Dragon Spawn, Spawn of Tiamat, yep, for sure. Like a video subject about the actual conflict between Bahamut and Tiamat and how serious it is for the worlds where dragons are involved is quite an important one. You can sleep in armor, yeah, you're just not going to have a good restful sleep, for sure. Ziz? I don't know. I don't think I've heard of the Ziz. Would you treat people getting magic armor with the same AC as normal armor as the same, or like a normal armor item in terms of how the players get it and how much? It would still cost as much as enchanted armor. Like if you wanted to get really specific about armor, some armor is very good at deflecting blades and not great against impacts. Like for instance, if you wanted to get really realistic about armor, then plate armor obviously is going to be a lot better against a heavy impact than chainmail. There'd be people who wear essentially leather armor would be kind of similar to just wearing a gambeson. Like a lot of leather armor it doesn't protect a lot of your body, so you could still have hit location charts where it would go straight into your leg without if you like rolled a dice to determine where the hit was going in, and if the impact was going towards their leg, then you would negate the armor class from their leather armor, for instance, because it's essentially just soft leather on their arm, on their leg. Leather armor isn't hard plates all over your entire body. So, yeah. Like I say, you got to draw the line in the sand of realism in your game. And that's kind of the point that I was making, is that they're not really crossing over into fantasy, into magic. Yeah, well, the Vikings also didn't wear a lot of armor as well. Not all of them wore chainmail. Ron Perlman should be a character in itself, yeah. Did Hellboy give me any ideas for D&D? Probably percolating away in the back of my mind. What are your thoughts? Are the Gargantua from AD&D the ones that live in Karatua? I haven't had any thoughts on those yet, Mason. What's the deadliest Fey creature? I don't really like fighting Displacer Beasts. They're pretty nasty. But also Pixies are extremely nasty. A group of Pixies? Whew. In 5th edition? Oh, they're nasty. Yeah, biblical creatures. Archons, many-headed angels, 2 wheels within each other covered in eyes moving like lightning, multi-headed leopards with wings, iron-toothed giant reptiles, spaceships. Yeah, don't forget we've got spaceships in the Bible too. Half-dragon Marilith. Ooh, nasty. Yeah, I like the idea of somebody wearing a golem as power armor. That's an interesting idea. And that's the sort of thing I would put into the ancient ruins of Netheril or Ilmaska. Ilmaska particularly had a kind of a techno-magical feel to their magical items and stuff. They had these giant purple rocked towers, for instance, like super arcologies and things. And Ilmaska also had a colony of their own, which they sent deep into the Underdark and locked it away behind these sealed vaults. And Ilmaska was an empire that had a lot of involvement with demi-planes. So Deep Ilmaska is a demi-realm, so it's sealed off from the rest of reality, and the only way back into the prime material realm is through these great big portal vault things, and they just recently opened up a few hundred years ago, and the Deep Ilmaskari people are a race of the Underdark now. So they're these humans from an ancient empire of magic from thousands and thousands of years ago who have been living in their own demi-realm and have changed a bit. So they've got like grey skin and stuff. So that's something that I haven't seen mentioned in 5th edition yet. Maybe news to a lot of you, but the Deep Ilmaskari are a race that I definitely want to talk about as well. Knight Errant videos, yeah. Yeah, exactly. 25th VL. Anybody who's played a player character, who's run a player character who's a pixie or who has DM'd for at least one or more pixie characters will tell you how deadly pixies are. Like, I'm not joking about this. Are there any other Fey fiends than Night Hags? Yeah, absolutely. When I start getting into these books, you'll see a lot of Fey, fiendish Fey creatures and Fey creatures that aren't like Fomorians and things like that. Yeah, Fomorians. Don't forget Fomorians are powerful forces of evil in the Feywild. So, Cavaliers, Knight Errants, or what do you call it? The guys who are Templars, Knight Templars. So warriors that work for a specific faith or church. How varied are the Lachey in their powers? Lachey share a group of powers as a racial sort of thing, but they are immortal, so they vary hugely from each other. Do you think a dragon would make armor enchanted with dozens of 9th level spells? They certainly could. In the Fairy lore, it said that they were sun elves who interbred with demons to strengthen their bloodlines and generally only breed with each other and exceptional elves. Does that include other elven subraces or just the sun elves? So a lot of the Fairy got locked away for a very long period of time, and whenever they seem to get released from their confinement, they busy themselves with plots and things like that, and they start summoning large amounts of devils and demons and things. So the Fairy, I'm not entirely sure how interested they are as perpetuating themselves as a race. They are so individually obsessed with themselves, so narcissistic essentially, that they don't really think about propagating the race. They don't have a maternal or paternal instinct anymore. They're really just completely vain, self-absorbed creatures. Yeah. So the creation of them was kind of a self-absorbed thing as well. Like, I'm going to make an offspring that is, dominant, because they were sort of born in a time of war, terrible war, total war between the different elven groups. The Crown Wars were crazy. Like, the Elven civilization was mighty, and it was brought low by itself, by its infighting and just insanity. So, yeah. Splinter Waves, evil play fart. Yeah, Splinter Waves. I've seen them. Gnomes are Fae as well. Are orcs based on wild boars? No. Orcs in Dungeons and Dragons originally had a sort of a pig-like face to them, but they've always been based on Tolkien's orcs in Lord of the Rings. So Tolkien's orcs were debased elves, but in Dungeons and Dragons, particularly Forgotten Realms, which is the current setting for Dungeons and Dragons, the orcs are an alien race of humanoids who are brought from another dimension to the world of Toril in two different waves. So you've got the original great mountain orcs of the Spine of the World Mountains, who live actually further north than the Spine of the World Mountains, in the Arctic sort of region as their homeland. And they sort of pile out of the Spine of the World Mountains or along the entire northern border down into the southern lands every 30 years or so. They go on big raids. And you've also got the orcs of the Orc-Gate Wars of Thay, who are a more civilized race of orcs that were brought over from a different time. So, yeah. Toril's got a couple of instances of beings being brought in from other worlds, including humans, of course, being brought in from ancient Earth and forming the Mulan people. So Tiamat joined the Devils. Pretty straight up answer there, Drew. Mobile Suit Gundam fights in D&D, yeah. I'm going to be bringing you a video on the Nucleavi soon, Damien, because I've had some Patreon requests for that. I've been gathering resources for it. It's really hard to find images of Nucleavi. So I've got a few. But yeah, they're a D&D monster for sure. Yugoloths are underrated, that's for sure, yeah. Have I done a video on Yugoloths? I've done a little bit of an intro on Yugoloths, but I haven't talked about Baneloths, the originators of the Yugoloths. Man, talk about evil creatures. Whew. What's my opinion on pig-faced orcs? Kind of like my opinion on early Star Trek Klingons. Artistic choices. Doesn't really influence the orcs overly much. I mean, originally they were goblinoids, so things change. I mean, we all accept these days that orcs are not goblins. We all accept these days that D&D orcs are not elven offshoots. We just do. Yeah, Baba Yaga is from not specifically Slavic. It's that entire region. Baba Yaga is ancient. Baba Yaga or Yaga. I say Baba Yaga, but it's Baba Yaga. Tucker's Kobolds. Yep, heard about them. Everything on Faerun wants to maim you. Not necessarily, but mostly. Does that mean that Faerie cannot work for player characters? Okay, how would you handle a Half Dragon PC monster manual template or reskin Dragonborn? It would be a template. And the Faerie, you can have a player character who's a Faerie. Essentially, they would be just as much a murder hobo as any other player character. What happens when normal orcs have offspring with pig orcs? They have half pig orcs, I suppose. Do I prefer kobolds as rat folk or dragon folk? Definitely dragon folk. Yeah. I like kobolds as they are now. Don't forget, kobolds aren't really... They don't have a basis in folklore. So kobold is the name for gnome. So technically they are gnomes. That's where the word comes from. But they just plucked the word and gave them a new monster listing. Oh yeah, the Cat Lords. They're weird. The Cat Lord. It's like, where did that come from in the Fiend Folio? What? Yeah, Nucleavi from the like the Outer Hebrides or somewhere like that. So the boonies of Ireland. Interesting comment there, Same Riser. Can I list all the reptile races in D&D? Only for a drinking game. Yeah, kobolds and gnomes do hate each other. Don't have cat lords in your game? Well, you just hate the knife ears. You just hate anything with pointy ears, your pocket DM. Are there any creatures that can't survive in the Feywild like it would kill them to be there? Yeah, humans. So the Feywild is a very exotic and alien environment for creatures that are used to the status quo. Dwarves don't like the Feywild, for instance, because it messes with time and location and place. It's warped and twisted. It's more sort of fairy tale. Occasionally the laws of physics just don't work right. Ringwraith Reclaimer. Kind of makes the law between kobolds and gnomes awkward when you think about it. Yeah, it's a little bit. I mean, gnomes kind of like victimize the kobolds quite a bit. But also, don't forget that the kobolds will absolutely kill the gnomes as well. So who started it doesn't really matter anymore. They both perpetuate it. Kevin, what does the kaiju appear in the D&D universe? Well, you can kind of do that with anything. Like basically, all you got to do is massively increase the size of any sort of creature, and it becomes a kaiju in D&D. Yeah, it's essentially something which is so gargantuanly huge that it becomes like an insurmountable monster. So you have anything that rampages at ginormous sizes across the landscape in D&D, and it's essentially, you've got your kaiju plot right there. And then it's a race amongst whatever beings. That's when I would allow people to wear golem power armor and stuff like that if they have to fight kaiju. So that's a legitimate plot in D&D, for sure. What would be some cool monsters for a sci-fi Spelljammer campaign? A lot of the monsters that we currently have, like Illithid, absolutely. Illithid hybrids and altered creatures, spell-altered creatures, giant space hamsters, all sorts of ordinarily terrestrial creatures which you put in a sort of a wild space environment, like decapods, for instance, which are like these tree octopi, all sorts of stuff. Give orcas a cultural background. Would a dire moose be a good mount battle pet? No more so than a regular moose. Yep. Of course, kobolds would be riding on giant lizards, or even drakes, or possibly flying on wyverns. What's an unstoppable apocalypse in D&D? When your religious aunt grabs your books and burns them. Oh, you mean in the actual game itself? There's all sorts of things. The Elder Evils, essentially. The Elder Evils are your apocalyptic threats. Rapinth, the giant mega dungeon. Diamoose. Well, horns on a diamoose. Spikes, not necessarily fangs. Mind you, I suppose a musk deer has got fangs, so... Oh, Matt, you've got to watch those keywords. Is the Modern Canaan's Tome of Oath elf lore completely incompatible with old lore? Or can some still... Yeah, you can work with it. You can work with it. Like, you can add into it. That's very much a mythology. Like, it's like what the elves tell themselves. It's very interesting, the whole past life aspect of the elven thing. Like, you're an immortal spirit that reincarnates continually into a body. That's kind of new. That's very Tolkien-esque in a way. And that bit is the most disruptive to the traditional D&D lore. Because it really changes the way that you play and think about playing an elf. And also gives lots of problems. Like it's a legit thing for a player to say, does my character remember anything from a past life? Can I make a skill check on that? And the DM's like, sure, you know. The Blood War is spilling out in my campaign. They have 9 years to prepare. Thoughts on messing with them? Ooh, definitely involves Slard, Modrons, and like beings of order and neutrality that want to keep things the status quo. So you may actually have real Mani which appear on the plane of existence to train people how to deal with demons and devils. Like teach them all about their weaknesses and strengths and things. And the real Mani are basically these really boring metallic skinned humanoids with outlandish floofy sort of clothing who just arrive and start instructing people with no explanation about who they are or where they come from. Rapanarthik is an amazing campaign. Be aware of all who enter. The dungeon is made for slaying careless adventurers. Don't go down the well. Yeah, well, Underdark starts with a well as well. Hey, how to D&D? How's it going, Frederick? What if dragons are heroes instead and the humans are nothing but villains because they have greed and violence like us? Yeah, well, there is a campaign where you can play as a dragon. Just generally not at the same time that you have humanoid player characters. Like a dragon campaign is good in and of itself, but you don't sort of mix and match the two. You don't have a party of adventurers with a dragon player character in that party. It just doesn't work very well. Dude, Robert, I lived through the Satanic Panic of the 1980s and 90s. Any advice against fighting against a heavily armed orc army? Yeah, hire some hobgoblins. Kermit the Frog gets mad. Yeah, absolutely. Have the Yugoloths offer their services. They profit from the Blood War. They'll start a war just to profit from it. Reminds me of certain nations I can think of. Painting day for me. I'm having a go at the Mimic from Knowles' series. Are you painting anything currently? Man, I wish I had more time for painting. I actually want to do some crafting videos. So I bought some cameras and things specifically for that. I am actually setting up in the background. I'm once again toying with the idea of Twitch streaming, doing some crafting, but I don't want to get anybody's hopes up because I actually disagree with Twitch fundamentally as a platform because of the way they handle currency. This is okay. Thank you, Sun Warrior. Because you can see exactly that somebody has donated money. It's not represented by bits or chips or whatever. You can see that Sun Warrior has donated $10 cash money to me directly and what effect it has. So it's straight up honest about what it is. Thank you very much for your donation. Running a 3.5 campaign with my level 13 characters versus a Frostwind Virago Winter Queen, daughter of Auril and Loki. Have any suggestions for powerful cold-themed fae for them to fight? So first of all, you can provide any sort of fluff text you want to an ice-themed elemental. Essentially, you would use like a stone golem as a basis, or a frost giant, remoras, any sort of marine creatures, sharks and things like that, and essentially reskin them and provide them with background flavor and text which is specific to your campaign. Pepper through your environment all sorts of little things like for instance in the Game of Thrones thing, that chance discovery that obsidian kills White Walkers is like a real D&D gold mine of like, that's the sort of thing you pepper through your campaign. Like you put little tidbits in there that the players are encouraged to investigate, talk to the locals, talk to the village people and things. Never write anything off as useless because it may contain that little kernel of information which protects them against dire supernatural threats. Supernatural creatures have otherworldly aspects to them which have defenses and offenses and things like that which don't make sense to your local environment. So perhaps copper is really good against fey cold creatures, that sort of thing, you know. Perhaps they are poisoned if you throw bags of rust in their face, like it's a cold iron type thing, but also rust has got that thermite sort of thermal feel to it. It's an oxidized iron. So yeah. An ice land shark, yeah, exactly. Put an ice template over top of things. We resemble that comment. Oh, what was that one about Pale Knight? Sorry, I missed that one. Does Pale Knight have any presence in the Feywild? No, she doesn't. Pretty straight up. That's going to be a tricky one, Matt, because it's going to force them into evil. Hey, thanks to November Mind. Yep, that's exactly how it works. Magic the Gathering dragons from Tarkir, yeah. Glass, yeah. Game of Thrones is getting really D&D lately, yeah. Like that whole thing of the guy with a flaming sword, for instance, who gets brought back from the dead by the flame deity, the flame, the light. Like, I like that whole thing because you're not really sure whether that deity is real or not. Like, it's kind of like a faith-based thing. He believes that he's empowered by this flame entity, so in a way he's kind of like a paladin of the flame. Whereas Melisandre was a witch of the flame. She was a high priestess, but what was going on there? And did she bring Jon Snow back from the dead, or was it just his sort of the fact that he's such an important character in the story that brought him back from the dead? What's the story there? So there's definitely a divine aspect going on in Game of Thrones, but it's muted, just like the magic is muted as well. Like there was a college of lich wizards in there as well, you know, that tried to capture the dragons and stuff. So there's all sorts of stuff. Are there marriage ceremonies in D&D? Yeah, tons. Tons of different types of marriage ceremonies. Depends on different deities and things. On Pale Knight, marriage in a church of Demigorgon. Yeah, that'll be a turn up for the books if you can only kill ice creatures with ice weapons. That'll be tricky. So would you throw out the reincarnation, or would you just be something to keep in mind? I'm just trying to figure out how all of this fits together. I would keep the reincarnation, but leave it kind of out of the control of the player characters. So if you want to introduce some background information outside of what the characters could possibly have learned, a character with a reincarnation remembrance of an event which they weren't physically present at is kind of useful. It's like by the way, during your last meditation, you have something about this place that you're going to sparks a memory of a past life, and you relive, and you basically narrate it as a cinematic event that they're a spectator of, which they glean information from. And that's implied by the character having lived before. So it's not something that the character can pressure you into giving them information on, but it's a narrative aspect that allows you to introduce information and plots and things into the game to make it more complex and interesting, and also makes the elven characters feel a little bit special. So keeping it under your control as a narrative outlet is handy, so I would keep that. If you remember correctly, they stop having those flashbacks to their past lives when they become an adult, so I think it might be you might be able to argue a knowledge skill but not anything else. Yeah, so you could say you remember that you had a flashback and now it makes sense. Like, now that you're closer to the place where this happened, now you understand that, there used to be a temple over there, and that's where you discover the ruins of the temple. Thanks, Felix. Thanks, Faith Alexandria OG. Yeah, Game of Thrones is low magic, like Conan, for sure. No, white dragons can't polymorph by their own power. They can still use magic to polymorph, though. They're just really stupid. Kind of stupid. Stupid brutes. Hi, Mark. Yeah, this is what I look like. Sorry for the disappointment. How to D&D? I always work hard. What can I say? 4 videos in 1 week, dude. Have a good day. Are giants really elephants and sauropod dinosaurs? Kevin, you're asking me real world questions. I'm just talking about D&D, dude. I've got no opinion on any historical facts or figures or texts or religious doctrines or anything like that. I'm just talking about D&D. So you've got to take it with a large grain of salt. Yeah, Cypriax in danger of extinction. What will happen then? So there are forces at work to slow down the encroach of the abyss. Perhaps there's a way to stop it and reverse it. Are most life-extending items soul-corrupting? There should be some sort of a possible way it could go wrong. Otherwise everybody would be doing it. Yeah. The new law can fit in, but just be careful how you use it. And since the half-dragon would get the trance, does that mean they count as elves for the reincarnation thing? That's a good question. Not necessarily. Like, the way that it's kind of implied that the dragon soul works is that it's an elemental essence. So they go on to some other form of existence, but it's still kind of a material existence. They don't go on to a celestial plane. They go to the elemental plane and become an elemental or something like that. But it's not really very well described. In past editions, are there, other than the Trash kaiju-like monsters? Yeah, there's all sorts of big nasty beasties. The blue dragon spawn, for instance, is a giant humanoid blue dragon ass kicker. That would be kind of like a kaiju. Exactly, Matt. No, that's fine, Dragon Turtle. That's what I'm here for. Are Feywild creatures allergic to normal stuff? Cheese, perhaps? Well, they don't like salt. They don't like cold iron. And some other stuff. They're not too bothered by religious iconography, but basic stuff like that, you know. Yes, Trogdor, there are. There are terrible things. I'll be bringing you some more terrible, terrible monsters in the future. How can elves have draconic blood? Did a dragon turn into a human at some point? Yeah, essentially. Would a botched elixir of life be a good vampire origin? Yes. Remove the shard of ultimate evil and the growth of the abyss would come to a complete stop. Possibly. Yeah. You just got to get there somehow. Are the greatest human mages on par with the greatest elven mages? Yes. How could a non-monk become biologically immortal? Magic. You're welcome, Casman. Well, it's time for me to go, everybody. I've actually extended well past my usual time because we had so many monetized donations today. Thank you very much, everyone. Nice Easter treat. I'm going to go buy myself some chocolate. Yeah, the Kraken is a kaiju level threat as well. But it's much more intelligent than a kaiju. Hey, thanks Drew Yates. Currently running a campaign to raise Tiamat from the 9 hells, and I want to make it more difficult. Is there any other race or monsters that would be useful to add to spice up the game? Tiamat from the 9 hells. So the Dragonborn definitely on the side of Bahamut, and also paladins. So Bahamut is a symbol of a paladin order. So he's a symbol of light. He's not just a dragon. He's also a good deity. So you could have a whole faith essentially of Bahamut that becomes quite important. Like when Bahamut turns his attention fully to that environment to make where Tiamat is threatening to gain a foothold, because they're doing this conflict across multiple different worlds. Don't forget. So you'll start seeing good aligned kobolds coming out of the Underdark, with races of like Pickett and other elemental beings and stuff that are coming up to the surface and fighting alongside of good clerics and good faiths, and they're healing people and laying on hands, and it's changing people's perspectives on that, like not all draconic beings are bad, for instance. And there'll be a lot of healing and stuff unleashed in the world, and a lot of order and light. So civil disobedience will lessen in cities and things, and thieves guilds will become more organized, and like racketeering markets and stuff will become more reasonable and fair. Just this general lawful good influence starts to spread itself through the place, so that even evil creatures are influenced by it somewhat, and everything becomes more lawful and orderly. So that sort of environmental effect, it's a magical world, and something that powerful will influence everyone. Thanks, James Greenan and Robert Wilson. Happy Easter to everybody. Don't forget to venerate the Immortal Emperor. Lots of really good questions this week. And I'll be back to see you again next week. Same time, same channel. It's Sunday for me, Saturday for you. I don't know what time of the day it is over there, but for me it's 12 o'clock Sundays. So I start streaming at noon with coffee and cheese. And don't forget, if anybody has got a link or something to an international cheese specialist exporter that I can get all sorts of cheeses from around the world to show you, let me know. Send me an email. I think half elves get to choose their own fate, Dragon Turtle. Oh, you're more than welcome. Axe poison! Okay, catch you later, everybody. Have a good week. More videos to come.